Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on the time you are watching this. I'd like to welcome you to the new thinking or the concepts of feeding lactating cows. I'll call it nutrition of lactating cows. The first part of my presentation. I am Dr. Joshua Isiko. I'm a feed expert. So all I'll be talking is based on knowledge and experience. My daily work is formulation, teaching on feeds for all animals, writing books, manuals, handbooks, training people about nutrition. So enjoy as you learn. To start with, I would like to challenge you. The picture on your screen there, this picture of a dairy animal. The dairy animal that is emaciated, you can see the veins here. This, we call it the milk vein, is just bulging. Of course, one of the farmers would praise himself and say that is my best cow. It's a big cow. By the way, this cow, many people say one of the ways to see a cow that is very good at milk production. Look at its condition. It is bony, of course. The conditional score, the body condition score of this cow would be about, how would you say, maybe 3.5 out of 5. You see, the bones all out. All the subcutaneous fats on the back are gone. But one of the farmer would praise himself and think this animal is good. You can see the ribs. You can count the ribs. This talk or lecture is to help you avoid these skinny cows. We call them the skinny cows. You can avoid them if you feed well. So pay attention to the things that I'm going to speak, that you may learn how to avoid this skinny cow, which gives probably some milk but looks very fine. Before I take you into that, I would like you to appreciate one thing. It is important to understand that a milking cow is a living factory. That's something that changed my life the day I understood that livestock are living factories. So what do I have here for you? Just like any factory that you may know, it has inputs and has outputs. It has what you would call the equipment that is limiting, the limiting equipment. Even if you brought equipment, what level, the limiting equipment decides how much you will harvest that day or you will make that day. And so it is to this kind of living factory, which is a cow. It is a factory that is living. Those of you who are in some countries that are using names like animal industry, the word animal industry simply tells you that a factory makes industry, animal industry. So they are trying still to point you to one thing, that an animal is an industry. Or do I have a very different thinking? Of course, some people would argue it out and say, no, they are meaning a composition of what, but to me, I want to point you to one thing, that animal that you have, the cow that you have, the goat and other animals are the ones that are making that industry. So unless you look at them as living factories, you will struggle to really appreciate what people advise you to do on your farm. And here I want to take you through that. This cow feeds or feeding and watering systems are very, very important, and they account for about 70% of the inputs. In terms of money, supposing you had 10 shillings, 7 of shillings would go to feed, at least. That's what it means. Those of you understand the language of dollar, if you had $10, $7 will go to feed and water. And then the remaining $3 would go to other things. That is if you were spending $10 either per day or per week, whichever, or per hour or per minute. And other inputs, not to forget, that constitute the 30% would be health, housing, breeding, and others. These are inputs that are complete or needed by any cow to produce the milk that you expect. On this side of the outputs, we have the animal main products like the milk, the meat. For the dairy industry or the dairy animal or a dairy farm, the meat we are talking of is that comes from the cows, cowed cows, or the cows, non-performing cows, whichever. Then the calves, but there are also what you would call byproducts like skin and hides, manure, etc. Those are outputs. But for you to get the milk, which is the main product for the living milk factory, you must know that that factory has a capacity. The capacity of that factory could be 45 liters. It can't go beyond that. Even if you fed it what? If it is 15 liters, it can't go beyond that. But if its capacity is 45 liters of milk per day, and you are getting 10 liters, you are operating at a low efficiency. 10 liters out of 45 is roughly, I would say that is maybe 40%. That's too low. So you just actually less than 30%. You just have to work out something to improve the efficiency of your factory. How do you do it? Work on the inputs. As simple as that. So this lecture is going to open your eyes on the 70% of the inputs in the living factory. For milk, well, the first question that always runs in the mind of any person that's starting to rear cattle for milk production and they are milking is, what are their needs, the nutritional or nutrient requirements, the needs of a cow? I would categorize them into 4. Energy. You will find different ways of denoting energy. Metabolizable energy is the latest energy system, and total digestible nutrients, abbreviated as TDN, is the old system. Some people, when they denote metabolizable energy, they call it ME, but other things we look at as energy, the sugars, the starch. I wouldn't bother you into those detailed things, but I want you to know in summary that you need energy. 2, you need protein. Protein can be denoted as metabolizable protein or digestible protein for cattle. The metabolizable protein for another animal, is not the same for cattle. We always now say, what is the metabolizable protein in this particular ingredient for that particular animal? So in this case, we are looking at metabolizable protein. Then minerals like calcium and phosphorus, and then vitamins. So those 4 categories are the needs. So the question is how much? That's what is tickling you wherever you are watching this. How much then? He has mentioned about them, but how much? That question is a big one. I will not answer it right away because that information is everywhere, probably. But I want just to give you some kind of logic of understanding the nutrients demand of a lactating cow along the lactation cycle. And then you appreciate how that changes. And then you know why you need some feed to be formulated to get a good formula. Here you are. In this, you need to know one thing, that the nutrient demands for milking cow vary along the lactation cycle. There are some factors that determine this. One of them is milk yield per cow. The higher the milk, the more nutrients you need. The pregnancy, if the animals, some of you may be aware already that a good milking cow should come again, or should get pregnant again at least 45 days after partition or after giving birth. So that means you milk it with a calf inside growing fetus. And the weight gain, that animal is not remaining the same. No, it is growing. It is adding weight. It is estimated that the average weight gain per day for a good dairy cow that is feeding well is about 3 kilograms per day. So that means if you milk it for some days, the maximum you can get is adding 3 kilograms per day. But of course, there are other factors. You can have 1 kilogram, others add 0.5, others 300 grams, depending on the breed. But at least you have to know that there's some weight gain that happened on that animal. The high fat, the first time of calving is smaller than the animal that has calved for maybe 4 or 5 times in its lifetime. Here is a curve to help you appreciate this. And in this way, you really need to know how the factors are relating with milk production and relating with the nutrient demand of protein. I picked out protein because it's one of the limiting nutrients for production. And in this case, I want you to pay attention to the colors because they are going to be the ones we use to identify the different graphs or factors. Blue, you see this blue moving like this. This blue is for milk yield per day or average milk yield per day. And then this, which is now orange, you see what the pregnancy. You see, it is the weight of the pregnancy is growing every day because the calf is growing in weight. And then we see that the additional weight gain is also increasing per day, depending on the rate. And then the protein, I would say, the protein requirements are also increasing per day. This is the protein requirements. You see them? They are increasing per day. So this is what I want you now to note. After knowing the factors and how they are affecting the protein. So you see, protein is low when the milk yield is low and the others are low. It reaches a time when the milk requirement, the protein requirement is almost constant because milk is affecting. And then we have here, when there's a drop, this is a curve, as the lactation cycle curve. You know it, most of you. In the first month, there is a spike. It goes high. The This month it is holding, then in the 7th month there, you find the animal trying to tell you something, probably. So by the time you come to about the 9 months, 8 months of production, the milk is low. And this part here, if the animal is now pregnant, maybe 7-month-old pregnancy, you are planning to dry it off. So that is the kind of drop you are seeing here. But now the question is, if you dropped, why is milk going? This part here is very unique, and I want you to really note it. In nutrition, with a pregnant dry cow, we assume that it has about 5 or 6, maximum 10 liters it is giving per day. So that's why you see some kind of sterile milk production. This is fake. I would say this is just assumed to show how milk is affecting the nutrient requirements for protein. So don't say a cow that's not producing any milk doesn't need any protein. No, this is to show you that there is an assumption that the animal is producing some milk here. After drying off, it's still an assumption that for you to estimate its nutrients very well, assume it's giving at least 5 liters of milk per day. And that's how you should treat it and give it those nutrients. So now the question is, now how much is it feeding? Oh, very interesting. Because the feed intake per day is based on dry matter intake of the weight of the animal, the live weight. So when the additional weight gain is changing, the daily feed intake is also changing. You see that this is the additional weight gain, and therefore the normal weight gain is also increasing automatically. It means that now the dry matter intake is also changing. So it's also changing. So you can see that you start with low quantities of the daily feed intake, and you are ending with high quantities. So the logic is, at the time when the nutrient requirements of protein, and this, I use protein, but that's what will be even to energy and everything, are going low, but the volume or the quantity the animal needs to take is high because it is larger. So the question is, how do I deal with the nutrition of this dairy cow? How do I deal with it? There is a time when the quantity is low and the nutrient requirements are too low. There is no big change here in the feed intake quantity, but the nutrients are high that are needed. That is a challenge, because sometimes it's not only that we just estimate 2 or 3%. Some animals have very small rumen that they can only eat 2.5% of their weight, their live weight. So what will you do? You have to feed and meet all the nutrients of that animal per day. What will you do then? That's what I want to take you and make you understand what will be done. But before I take you there, I would like to show you this other graph, which is unextracted daily feed intake and the feed quality protein. How much protein is in the feed? This is what is happening. The orange graph is the quality or the protein concentration or composition in the feed. And the blue one is the feed intake. Now, this is what happens. when I'm formulating or I'm feeding, I am giving roughly, let us say this is 26 kilograms per day for a given animal, but the protein in it is low. And then it raises at some point. I give the same quantity from here to here almost, you see, but I am using a high protein formula. And then when it comes to this month, when it comes to month 7 of production, there's a drop. And then you see a drop further on the 8th month of production. The 9th, 10th, maybe you are winning it off. And then here you are assuming it is producing some little milk, but it's dried off. Now, here the protein is low, you see. The protein is low. But the quantity is even higher because the animal is bigger and you are basing on the percentage. And if you don't base on the percentage and you just give a kind of high quality milk, feed, and reduce the quantity of feed, you stress the animal to feel hungry. So it will still not give you milk at all, or you impair its next production cycle because it was stressed in the period towards phasing out the first lactation cycle, going into the second lactation cycle. So I would like you to appreciate this and know that you need to play with the quality along with the quantity of the animal feed that you are going to give to your dairy cattle. I will explain TMR and later. Now, the question here is simple. Somebody is asking, now how do I cater for the nutritional needs along with the lactation cycle? The answer is simple. Grade your animals into groups according to the the milk performance. This is an example. I can grade my animals to less than 10 liters per day, and I have that kind of section, 11 to 15 liters per day, 16 to 20, 20 to 25, 21, 25, 26 to 30, then above 30 liters per day. And I have these are 6 categories of production. If you have more than one cow, if you have one cow, know where you follow. Your one cow may rotate through 3 of these or 2 along the production cycle or the lactation cycle. It may start in 15, 11 to 15, then it goes to 16 to 20, and then drops back, or reaches 20, 21 to 25, and then drops back to either 16 to 20. So you must be aware of how your animal is going to change, so it can move through this. So all you need is to know, when do I change the feed, and be able to move my animal, my cow, along with the categories of production. This is for you to note. This is an example. You can create categories based on any kind of assumption. You may use a range of 5 liters or a range of 10 liters or 3 liters or 2 liters, depending on what you want. It's up to you. As long as you can get the feed type, the recipes, or the quality of feed that matches with that kind of grouping. But the range of 5 or 4 is advisable here. Now, so give a feed that is matching the category that you have identified your cow following. What are now the categories of feed? We call them feed types that should be given to dairy cattle, lactating cows. One of it is total mixed ration, abbreviated at TMR. This feed is chopped. You chop everything, even if it's grass, any kind of forage, mix it together with other ingredients like cotton, sunflower, soya, maize, bran, and then you mix it like you mix any feed for broiler or layer, pig. That's the way you mix it using a mixer. And after mixing, you now feed it. That's what we call total mixed ration. That feed should contain, the formula for that feed should be able to provide all the nutrients the lactating cow needs that day. So that if it fed on 20 kilograms, for instance, it should be able to gain all the protein it needs, all the energy it needs, all the minerals it needs, and all the vitamins it needs that day. Now, there's what we call a partial mixed ration. The partial mixed ration is also chopped, mixed according to the formula, but it contains part of the daily nutrient requirements for a given category of a lactating cow. This time, some level of feeding in a way that that person is assuming, instead of using excess dairy, the general dairy, the dairy meal they are going to produce will supplement what is a deficit, what is not provided by the partial mixed ration will be provided by the customized dairy. Automatically, that one takes us to the third category, which is the customized dairy meal. Supplemented, mixed using non-pasture or forage ingredients like sunflower, cotton, like the way we do mash for these other monogastrics. But it is having nutrients that top up those of the partial mixed ration. So a combination of partial mixed ration plus a customized dairy will give you a total mixed ration. That's what it means. So you will find some dairy farms using those kind of terms of feed, categories of feed. The customized dairy meal, partial dairy meal, don't get confused and think they are off track. They are right. And then lastly, we have the general dairy meal. This one is done with respect of whether the animal has fed everything in the partial, in the dairy, the total mixed ration, or adlib, whichever. You give a dairy meal. And this is a mixed, still using non-pasture or forage ingredients like the ingredients we use for monogastric, but it's giving either additional or just excess nutrients. And then other kind of advantages associated with the general diet. Now, how do I give the TMR or the PMR to a lactating cow? That's the question. How do I do it? That's the question. You may have a very good total mixed ration made on the farm, but you fail to get the milk you want. So you must know that the biggest work is that getting this right feed, which is a good quality, into the animal. That's where feeding becomes a serious thing on the farm. And that's where most of the farmers make mistakes. Now, how do you avoid that? These are some of the things I'm going to let you know, or to teach you, or to explain to you. One, in case the animal is feeding, is being milked twice a day, and that's the milking plan already made. It is advisable that 60% of the daily feed intake of that milking cow is given 7 hours to the afternoon milking time. Supposing you milk at 3 p.m., make sure the animal have been given feed. I'm meaning supplying feed in the feeder by 8 a.m. in the morning. So that means if you milk at maybe 4 or 5, the moment you finish milking, clean the pen, clean the feeders, put their feed. And if you are to do that, it is advisable before you sleep, the feed you are going to use in the morning is ready. Do not plan to do it in the morning, to go cut, mix in the morning. You are going to miss a point. Because that animal needs about 5 hours to make a milk from the feed you put in the stomach in the previous. So some of you make a mistake. You want to fill the cows to stomach full, just minutes to milking. There is no magic like that, that the milk that is you want to milk will just instantly come from the rumen and you get milk in the udder. It is impossible. The science is it takes about 5 hours for you to have nutrients, that the feed digested, nutrients absorbed, and then the nutrients are converted into milk in the udder before you harvest it. So then if you have given 60 in the morning, then after milking, make sure that the remaining 40% is fed before it is night, and you give the animal time to rest. This is the very reason why some of you have animals that give more milk in the morning than in the afternoon. Because some of you, after milking in the morning, you move around, you are just looking for feed here and there, and then you start now feeding your animals at 10 or 11. Of course, it takes about 2 hours for an animal to feed its rumen. If feed is there, so it will eat. If you put feed at 11, for instance, it will be full at 1, and you expect to milk it at 3. No way. You are going to collect about 5 liters. Then in the morning, you get 10. And you wonder why it is happening like that. It's because you fed late in the morning. So do that. And in the case of 3-time milking regimen, give 60 of the day feed intake of the milking cows. 5 hours the first milking time of the day. If you start at 3 or 2, make sure by 3. I mean, by 9, your cows have been given feed. Of course, this means you will not get all the milk for the feed you've given the 60%, but you will milk part of it, and then the next time you milk, the third time you are going to milk, maybe that's 10 p.m. You milk when the animal, so you will really find a balanced kind, a uniform production for every time of milking. So make sure your animal, and then of course give the 40% later. So that after every milking, it is always advisable you feed your animal very well. Now people say we have learned about the total mixed ration, the partial mixed rations. How about the customized or the general diary meals? How do I give them? Do I mix them in feed? No. How do I feed them? Remember that these diary meals have different purposes, but one of the common purpose why we give diary meals to attract milking cows to the milking power. Number 2, and then to onset milk letdown for the cows. So, of course, the additional nutrients to the lactating cow are also important. With the fact that you want to attract a milking cow, the milking parlor, you cannot put the dairy milk in a general milking or a feeder where animals come. No, you measure for every animal and put for every animal. You learn later that every animal has a different quantity it feeds of dairy milk, and we'll learn how you do that. Now, in the developed countries that have robots that are milking, you find that a robot feeds dairy milk and also milks. That's what happens. So it is trying to simulate what you would do in the less mechanized farms. An example is if a cow is milked more than once a day, divide the daily dairy into equal portions according to the number of milking times. An example, if you are giving 2 kilograms of dairy milk per day to a cow and it's milked twice a day, then you divide it into 2 portions. That is 1 kilogram per milking time. So as simple as that. So that you are able to have something you give it every time it is coming to have the milk. I know you've enjoyed this. I don't want to rush you into the next part of nutrition, which is full of calculations. I would want to first congratulate you for running through, watching all this, and also thanking you to watch us. So I'll pause for now, and then I'll talk about part 2 of the lactating cows in the next version, in our next video. Thank you for watching.